of already touched on it a little bit, but let's dig deeper now because, of course, this other big test for the market does come next week when Nvidia reports. And today, there's this new batch of bullish street commentary ahead of that print. So Kristina Partsinevelos joins us now with the details. Kristina, go through what all these bulls are saying ahead of actually getting the numbers.
The big question today is who has the bigger price target? And today it is Loop New Street at $1,200. That's 65% upside from yesterday's close. There's others that threw in $850 today. Oppenheimer. They think, and this is Loop, they think Nvidia will not only beat expectations, but will provide more upside to its full fiscal year 2025 estimates because they are at the front end of this GPU generative AI cycle. Yes, there is competition, and they believe that it's still far out enough that Nvidia will benefit from the first mover advantage. Analysts also writing, we're gonna party like it's 1995 with the dot-com bubble, you know, coming just a few years later. So is that a good sign to put that as the title of your note?
I don't know.
But especially when Nvidia's share price has literally climbed $542 in just 1 year alone. And we can't speak of price appreciation without bringing up Supermicro, the real winner this year. Its share price has gone from $95 to over $1,000 at yesterday's close. It's down today on an equal weighted report from Wells Fargo pointing out to some competition from competitors. The stock is down 12%. This is a company that designs server racks and storage clusters. It's known for power efficiency, all the more important when we're building out these large language models. But Supermicro is reliant on Nvidia. Wells Fargo points out that 68% of total Q2 purchases came from Nvidia in 2024. Another big customer could be CoreWeave for Supermicro, which Nvidia is a big backer. You notice how everybody's connected back to Nvidia? And last but not least, I have to keep the theme going, right? Speaking of Nvidia, ARM's share price has soared as well, counts Nvidia as an AI investor, as an investor. ARM makes the designs for chips found in everything from computers, phones, fridges, you name it. And they say that they're going to benefit from all of these products shifting over to the AI revolution, but that shift hasn't necessarily started yet. But the price appreciation in this stock has just skyrocketed. And I think that's the theme.
I mean, look at this.
And Joe, you briefly maybe mentioned it today or previously, that theme that forget the beat on the earnings, the current cycle, or even the following cycle guidance, but it's just like, what are they going to say about growth in, the next year, 2 years? We need that sustainability to keep that conviction in the market for this AI trade. And that's what Nvidia can show us next week.
So much hanging on that report. Bill, I know you don't own Nvidia, but you do own ARM.
I do own Nvidia.
Oh, you do
it's
own
actually
Nvidia.
our my number 4 position.
Oh, thank you for correcting.
I've been right. It's been a big leader of ours for a while, and we've had to kind of just work through managing that from a portfolio standpoint. And we cut it by a third ahead of AMD's earnings, and it's right back into number 4. It went down to number 9. Now it's number 4. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm excited for these earnings. I think, though, when it comes to everybody's expecting something, we've continued to see price targets rise and rise and rise. It creates and feeds speculation, and that speculation needs to unwind. And again, I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but I'm looking at the call skew here. There's a lot of calls being purchased. People sell those calls. The market makers do, and those things have to start to unwind once that risk is known of earnings. If it's not an absolute blowout, but even if it is a blowout, I think some of that could unwind and we go through a consolidation similar to what we had after August. But overall, though, I don't think it derails the entire play here. I think the AI play is going to continue to build as the year unfolds. We do own ARM as well, and it's a small position in ARM to start, and right away it took off. I'm more or less just kind of waiting for this to consolidate. I know there's a lot of speculation out there about ARM with I think it's a March 12th lockup period that ends for holdings. It's SoftBank, and I think some of that is something that you have to be aware of in some of these stocks like an ARM, or you're watching a super microcomputer, the volatility that these things happen, and it's just continue to fuel a lot of speculation. But it's important to manage your risk and know what you're expecting out of this, and that's why we're positioning sizing in something like ARM small enough that we can withstand the volatility, but we plan to hold it for 3 to 5 years. I think that thing could 4x over that time, if not more.
Wow. How are you managing? You have both in your Joe.
From an industry perspective, semiconductors are by far our largest holding.
Okay.
We're momentum based, and we're tracking also quality as a factor. So yeah, semiconductors are going to be right up there. I think first in the case of Supermicro, it could be a little bit of both arguments. It can be, yes, They have the relationship with Nvidia, so that's a fundamental catalyst. Then it also can be what Mike Santoli's done a great job talking about the last several days, a little bit of a return to that speculative behavior that we saw in 2021. And keep that in mind, because the IWM ETF, which is equally weighted, right now, wherever IWM is going to trade is where Super Micro is going to take it, because Super Micro is 1% of that actual ETF, whereas the rest of the holdings are only 35 basis points. So you have to keep that in mind. In the case of Nvidia, where it sits right now, obviously we have ownership. I would not put fresh capital into Nvidia at this price. Nvidia could go to 1,000. At some point, you'll be able to find the dip. You'll be able to get the opportunity, if you have fresh capital, to put into Nvidia. But I don't think that defeats overall what's a really strong story for semiconductors. And you saw that last night with Applied Materials.
Oh, yes.
I mean, they are the largest semi-equipment maker in the United States. You had some insight from KLA Corp and from Lam Research. It was going to be good. And for the dynamic random access memory chips, this demand from China was incredibly strong, and the outlook, to your point, they were confident that that's going to continue.
But Kristina, not everyone is like Loop Capital with the 1,200 price target. I think you said Oppenheimer up to 2, but there are other analysts that are like, hey, look, we could go the other way.
Oh,
What's the contrarian argument?
Nobody's saying to sell this company or anything like that. So let me start with that. But I think there's a little bit more caution. Bank of America, as an example, just because they don't believe that the upside will be as big as it was previously. I think last quarter, 10, 11%, the quarter before that, a 22% beat. So it's really hard to keep that momentum. And the other concern, too, is supply. So, you know, there might be a cap on how high NVIDIA can come out with this earnings report because of the supply constraints, which bodes well for the following quarters, but puts a limit. So should that be the case, and you mentioned the options market playing a big role with NVIDIA, we could see a downtick. On the upside, for our viewers to know, on average, NVIDIA tends to trade 6% higher after their big AI event, which is happening March 18th. And this is on average of a 6-year range. So that could be an opportunity if investors are looking, hey, the stock drops post-earnings, there's going to be another catalyst just a few weeks later.
I like that a lot. I think that's a really, really great way to look at things. If you get this unwind of a lot of speculation, a lot of disappointment, if you will, from people that have been buying NVIDIA over the past couple of weeks, and then this thing unwinds a little bit, and then you can now speculate again ahead of their conference.
Speculate, though, right?
Yeah.
Keyword.
Oh my gosh, so much going on here. Kristina, thanks for being here. Obviously, you're going to keep us on our toes next week here, too. Thank you very much.
Okay, so to recap, guys, there's a $1,200 price target on NVIDIA coming in from Loop Capital. They say more upside and even better guidance expected from this Wednesday's earnings. NVIDIA's earnings is this Wednesday, February 21st, 2024. Just a stat, NVIDIA is up $542 just in 1 year, guys, alone. So much is hanging on this earnings report, with NVIDIA rather being the AI leader. It's going to tell us so much about how it's progressing and how fast. Money managers continue to own NVIDIA and continue to trim the position because it keeps growing so fast. Super Micro is soaring just because of their relationship with NVIDIA and because of what they're accomplishing over there, but mainly because of their relationship with NVIDIA. They say do not put fresh capital into NVIDIA right now. Wait for a future pullback, even if the stock goes higher from here. China demand is strong, incredibly strong for chips right now. And guys, this Loop Capital $1,200 price target hike, the highest on the street. There's others around 800, 875, she was saying. If you do get a dip on earnings, maybe buy ahead of the big AI event that's on March 18th. Other than that, guys, that wraps up the video. I hope you learned something. I'll catch you in the next one.